as you can see behind me, we have another Land Rover in the workshop. Now I got a little bit concerned that we might run out of things to do. So what I've done is I've taken on another job. This Land Rover is owned by Greg from GDB Recovery. And as you can see, it's currently engineless. And what we're going to be doing is fixing that by installing a new engine, a better engine, an American engine. Now what I want to do today is just sort of introduce the project, show you a bit about the truck, what we're going to be doing, because it's a rather unique Land Rover. I'll show you the engine and all the bits, and we'll get started on preparing some things. Originally a TD5, much like my one. Slightly newer models, this would have been a 15p instead of a 10p. You can see it's got the facelift dash. Crew cab, so seats in the front and the back. And then here we have a spec lift. So this is a recovery vehicle. And this is obviously, I don't know if you've seen lizard lick towing, but people can't be getting licked with this. So yeah, you sort of go and repo financed cars with one of these, as far as I'm aware. That's their main purpose. Have a look in here. Another wonderful Well 380 gearbox, that will be going. Lovely. It's obviously painted in Greg's colours. I assume it will have a load of stickers on it at some point, but I don't know. Have a look underneath the truck, if we can get in around these side steps. It's obviously been modified so it can take the extra weight. It's got double springs on it. And a big rubber bump stop up there. Many lights, doing all your recovery things. Not sure what they're for. Yeah, those are your switches. Your things, definitely hydraulic. There's all that go. What's in here? Oh, there's a jack. What's in here? A winch. If I was a hydraulic pump, where would I be? They would normally be on the back of the transfer case. I don't believe I can see one on here. Yeah, you got PTO output off the power takeoff output off there, but obviously not one there. Must be a lecky one somewhere. I reckon there must be some sort of electric pump in here somewhere. Surely. No, where are those wires going? That's the thing. That does things. Recovery. So that's. Oh. Oh. Oh no, what's that? Just the power. Oh no, that's for a remote, I reckon, isn't it? Ah. Aha. That's looking like a hydraulic pump, isn't it? We found it. So electric hydraulic pump, that makes things easier. I've got to worry about that. Because we are going to have to move the transfer box. That's a quick overview of the truck. It's a pretty interesting vehicle. Let's go and have a look at the engine. So this here is an engine we all know and love, and one you might recognise from our Cummins swapped Daimler build. So this is a 6BT Cummins removed from a DAF 45. So Greg's provided this engine and he assures me that it's all well and good. He drove it in the lorry before it was removed. So if you don't know what this is, it's a 12-valve Cummins, so a 5.9 litre 6BT removed from a lorry. This is I believe a 130 horse engine. It's 97 kilowatts. Someone wants to convert that and tell me I'm wrong, that's fine. But yeah, standard rotary pump. Slightly older than what we've got in the limo. This is a non-intercooled engine. Lots of hot air straight in the intake. Mint. H1C turbo, so the older version of the HX35. But yeah, perfectly suitable for what we're doing here. We are going to be leaving this engine standard power. Greg doesn't want to build a race truck. This is a work truck. We will also be tarting the engine up a bit because it does look rather crusty. But I'm sure on the inside it's perfectly fine. We will be checking it, but you know, we'll tart it up, but again, it's not going to be a show truck. There's lots of bits that obviously need to change on this engine. Standard lorry runs on 24 volts. We'll be running that one on 12 volts. We'll be keeping the lorry gearbox, so this is the ZF 5-speed manual. So that will need some modifications to go in the truck, but that's what all these bits are here. So let's have a quick look over what we've got in this pile of goodies. So this is actually one of the more common Land Rover engine swaps, which is a good thing because that means we can buy lots of pre-made and pre-designed parts. So this is actually quite an in-depth swap, but it's made much easier by all these things here. So as I run you through the parts here, let's start from the back of the vehicle and work our way forward. So we're running the standard lorry gearbox, but we are, as I said, going to be keeping the Defender transfer box. But to attach the transfer box to the back of that transmission, we need this adapt plate here, made by Reese Myers on the Cummins Facebook group. So we need to do some modifications to the gearbox, but essentially that will bolt onto the back of there and allow us to bolt the transfer box to it. In order to attach the transfer box to the back of that gearbox, we need some different parts. So I'm guessing this here is the input gear with a different spline in it, which I'm assuming is matching the spline on that gearbox. We also have a full rebuild kit here for the transfer box. And this here, I would guess, is our different ratio gear. Oh, what was that? That sounded expensive. Our different ratio gearing for the transfer box itself. So, as these engines only rev to 2,500 RPM, and their torque band is lower than that, what we do is significantly up gear the transfer box. That's normally a 1.4-ish ratio transfer box, and we're basically taking it with those gear swaps to a 1-to-1 ratio. That allows the engine to be sitting in its torque band and allows you to retain some top speed when you've halved your max RPM. So that's the first bit for the transfer box. We then got some gearbox parts here. So as you can see, that's where the shifter for the lorry sits. And that's not very helpful in a Land Rover because otherwise you'd need someone on your bonnet to select a new gear. That's where this piece comes in, and this will replace this turret here and allow us to put a standard Defender gear knob on there. How lovely. Here we've got a new standard clutch. So the limo is getting a custom clutch from Clutch Fix, whereas this one is going to be left at standard power so it can run a standard lorry clutch without slipping, hopefully. This is a TD5 alternator. Now, we're going to be putting this on the engine for two reasons. One is it's 12 volt, the lorry one's 24 volt. And this one also has a vacuum pump on the front, and we need vacuum for the brakes. So we'll be plumbing that up. Again, same one we've got in the limo. 12 volt starter motor, that's 24 volt. We need a 24 volt, 12 volt one. And that's a little spacer because this gear offset on the 12 volt starters is different. Don't ask me why, I don't know why they did that, but there's obviously a reason. We got a few bits just to tidy the engine up and make it reliable for many years to come. So there's a new lift pump, new water pump, some new injector lines because they're rather crusty. We have a rocker cover with a filler in it because that has a remote filler on it, which again, it's fine when you're in the lorry, but not so helpful when you're in the Land Rover. This is half of our alternator bracket. Again, all of this stuff here is from Reese Myers, the laser cut bits. So that will give us a new bottom outlet to connect our radiator hose up to, and it also gives us mounting point for the alternator. These are all our engine and gearbox mounts here, the profile parts. We'll work out how all those go together. I'm not 100% sure how those all work yet, but we've got an instruction manual with us and a contact of the main man, so we'll walk you through that as we go. This is a new pickup tube for the sump. The cool thing about these Cummins engines is the sump is universal, so you can flip it whichever way you want. The bolt pattern stays the same, but you need the pickup tube to move. So the front sump doesn't work for these swaps because it will hit the diff, so we need to flip the sump round so the big bowl of the sump there is at the back. And that's what that pickup tube allows us to do. So the oil pump that's at the front of the engine picks up the oil from the back of the engine. And there's a new sump gasket there to go with it. What we're going to be doing today is stripping off all the stuff we don't need from this engine. There's quite a few bits on it we don't want, and then that will allow us to just take a general look at what we're working with. We're going to give it a good geyser rebuild. Got my can of engine degreaser there, and get it ready for a good old-fashioned spruce up. Brother, Milwaukee power. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. See how crusty this engine is? That is one of the hose clips. Not a lot left of that, is there? Yeah. Fixed. Oh. So normally I wouldn't touch the exhaust manifold bolts. There's not generally any reason to take them off, and they almost certainly snap when you try and do so. However, I'm not really sure I can send an engine out with manifold bolts that look like that, because I don't really know how much longer they're going to be a bolts for. So I think we're going to be doing a bit of cutting, and this turbo also looks rather crusty, although it does actually feel okay. No real shaft play that way. That way doesn't particularly matter as long as it doesn't smash into the housing, not excessive. The only shaft play you really worry about is the stuff you have with your missus. Well, that's gone well. Clumsy. Schnick. Oh yeah. Alright, we've got the two relatively okay ones out, so we're going to try our luck on the rest of them. I am unconvinced. No, that's already gone wrong. Oh dear. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that's not worked. So what we're doing now is just welding some nuts onto the end of these broken and cut off studs. That puts a load of heat into the bolt and hopefully frees some stuff up, and then it gives us a nice clean hex to put a spanner on. So I'll do that with the rest of them, and then we'll try and get them out. Kind of worked. Wrong bit came out, but kind of worked. Right, well that was a pain, but the exhaust manifold is now off. We didn't manage to get all the studs out. A load of them broke off at the head, but that's all right. At least we can now have another crack with welding some nuts onto these one and trying to get them out. And the ones we can't get out, we will drill out and retap. So I'm unbolting this piece here, which is the air compressor with a hydraulic pump on the back of it. Now the hydraulic pump would be for the power steering on the lorry. That's way too high pressure for what we need. If you put that on a Land Rover steering box, it will essentially split the case in half. No bueno. The compressor we're taking off because it's way overkill for what we need. So on a lorry, the air compressor runs brakes, suspension, and the clutch. And obviously, if you have trailer brakes or anything like that as well. We just need air for our little slave cylinder on the gearbox, on the clutch, just to make the clutch a bit lighter. So we'll run a little separate standalone 12-volt compressor. These ones, although they're good and they're mechanical, that will require air tanks, pressure relief valves, air dryers, lots of expense, plumbing, all sorts of stuff that we don't need. whereas we can get a little standalone unit that's plenty enough for what we want to do. So we'll pull this out. You can see it's on a gear that drives off all the timing gears here, and we should be able to get cover just to bung that plate up. For the power steering, we'll run either a Merc electronic power steering pump or a or one of like a Citroen Saxo or something like that. Only a little 12-volt thing. Again, plenty for what we need in this truck. These two pipes will be coming off as well. So this is some sort of water pipe. Does many things. This is the remote filler. So that means in a lorry you can fill it up from a distance, which is what you want, not what we want. And that's the dipstick. So as you can see, the dipstick at the moment goes into the sump where you want your dipstick to go. Unfortunately, our sump is not going to be there anymore. So when we flip the sump around, the dipstick will go in back here somewhere, which is in that little packet there. Let's get all this stuff off. That lift pump will be coming off. I think we've got some new high pressure injector lines, but I reckon we'll be getting some new return lines and a few of these other crusty bits replaced as well. And I don't reckon that spring's got much left. That looks appear to be hanging on for dear life. I've just pulled the lift pump off and you can see the camshaft in there, and it's good news. Look at that. Looks brand bloody new, chap. We will have a bit of a dig into the rest of the engine, and when we take the sump off we'll get a better idea and pull some of the rocker covers off. But it is amazing how terrible an engine can look from the outside and how lovely it can actually be inside. Look at that. Okay, so we got the engine outside. I've been around and taped up any oil passageways or any way that dirt can get into the engine. We're not worried about waterways because that's full of water anyway. I've just given it a bit of a blow off with the airline. As you can see, a rather nice amount of detritus has come off. My face looks even worse than that, but anyway, now we've done that, let's get a bit of this stuff on. Now I'm not going to go ahead and mention that name, I'm just going to let you read that as you do, because I'm a little bit dyslexic and it comes out a bit different than I think it's supposed to. Give that a good coat, let it work its way in, and then we'll get in there with a brush and some low pressure water. Give this dirty dog a good clean. So giving the thing a good coating of degreaser, we're now going to get in here with a drill on a few of these little brushy things and chuck it all about a bit. Then we'll give it a rinse off. Oh, that's the end of its first clean. I say first clean because there's definitely going to need to be a few more, but that will allow us to take a few more bits off and put some of the newer bits on. It's just nasty working with really horribly oily engines, as all old engines are, especially diesels. So we'll get it back in the shop now, and that'll be us for today. I'm going to clean up this natural disaster here.
So what do you do to protect the environment in cases like this?
The ship was towed outside the environment.
Into another environment?
No, it's been towed beyond the environment.
Right guys, well the engine's looking better already, so that is going to do it for today. Thank you for watching along. I hope you enjoyed this sort of introductory video. This is going to be quite a fast-paced project as Greg needs this truck back quite quickly because with it sat here, it's not earning him money. So we're going to be using every bolt-on bit we can, and we're hopefully going to be drafting in a couple other people to help out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.